For the newbies, how do you hold handlebars?
Yeah, usually like this, Cam. That's how I do it when I'm riding. Just,
Right, okay.
and you got to muscle them so they don't get away from you. Now look, there's four main hand positions that people will want to use on a road bar. You got your position on the top, which most people will use here if they're climbing on a relatively steep ascent. If they want to sit back up and open their chest up and expand their lungs a little bit and breathe a little bit better, they might sit up here when they're not too worried about aerodynamic loss. So if you're going fairly slow up a steep incline, hands on top, try and be relaxed and gentle here. Gripping violently often means that the seat is a bit too far back, or you're loading your hands really heavily because you're concerned about the steering of the bike. But being up on top here on the flats is probably the closest hand position, certainly, that you can have back to your body, and that will obviously push your torso and therefore your pelvis a little bit more upright. And you can rest your hands here, assuming that you don't need to get to the brake levers very rapidly. So not advisable in a fast bunch ride. If there's cars coming out of driveways in front of you or doors being opened, you can't get from there to there quick enough a lot of the time. So obviously this is when the road is clear ahead of you, you've got good visibility, and you want to just move your hands around to get a bit of circulation back if you got cold hands because it's a cold morning, that kind of thing. Being able to move between these positions and the ones I'm about to show you is a good thing. The main position, I guess you would say, the one that most people occupy most of the time, is with the web space of your thumb here out in this angle of the hood here, just behind the head of the hood here. So this kind of an angle here, you can basically change your torso angle significantly and your hand will still be fairly comfortable. Assuming that you've got all this on a fairly normal angle, your hand should be fairly comfortably placed with the whole of the hood across the palm of your hand there.
Slight bend in the elbow?
Ideally, a decent bend in the elbow. We don't measure angles here in my game, but 20, 30 degrees as viewed from the side, perhaps even more. And if the wind is up or you're giving it the beans on the front of the bunch and you want to tuck down even lower, you might even come down to close to a 90-degree angle. Yeah, if you're a pro like me.
What about those shoulders, nice and relaxed?
Ideally nice and relaxed. It's very hard to be super relaxed when you're not pedaling because I've got a lot of weight on my hands. But yes, you want to keep your shoulders relaxed if possible and the hands just nicely placed into the web space of your thumb there on the hood.
What about on the brake?
On the brake, I always try and keep 2 fingers around the lever.
Okay.
And with
Just
these...
in case?
Yeah, I think that's probably a safe bet. There's not much point in not doing it.
Yes.
You can tuck underneath there if there's absolutely nothing around, but you might as well just loop your fingers over there. I've had wallabies jump out in front of me. I've had people open doors unexpectedly. Being able to get to those things quickly is a part of having a good hand position on the bike.
Okay.
Thirdly, you're on the front, you're giving it the beans, you're trying to tuck down out of the wind and there's nothing around that you could run into. This kind of, I don't have a name for this. I think I should call it the joystick position because you're holding the hood like a joystick, more upright like this, and then dropping the forearms horizontal. Now, some people's flexibility or their hip impingement or their crank length or the drop to the bars won't allow them to do this easily. And to be honest, a huge number of us will fall into that category. So you might be looking at spending 30 seconds at a time here, when you're on the front into a headwind or something, right? But again, you cannot get to the brake levers super rapidly. So you got to make sure there's nothing around that you're going to be running into here, okay? This is, from speaking to some guys who run wind tunnels, this is apparently the most aerodynamic position, apparently, for a huge number of people. It's to do with the airflow that's disturbed by your fist breaking off the back of your elbow there. There's actually more frontal area for your body when you're down in the hood, down in the drops here, with the airflow breaking off your forearm like this.
I find it hard to get my elbows in as well down there.
To get them in?
Yeah.
Yep.
Easier there, where you're at right now.
Yes, I much prefer this position myself to the drops.
And the drops is the fourth position, isn't it?
Drops is the fourth position.
Yeah.
The drops are good, for descending and everything. It obviously drops your centre of gravity down a lot. If you're Caleb, absolutely. Yeah. It purely depends how good your bike handling is, how comfortable you are producing big wattages down in a really flexed position. It's one of the categories of a World Tour sprinter, which is hugely beneficial. And the 2 people you should look directly at here is Caleb and Cavendish.
Okay.
These guys both, and they can both ride down here in massive wattages for long periods with their torsos super low and out in front of the bike.
Yep.
For most of us mere mortals, this might be a bit of a difficulty. It
Okay.
depends on how flexible we are, right? So the drops are great because you can descend here down a mountain and change your hand position around down from up the top or down here, and you can still reach the
How
levers.
should you change your hand position? One at a time or both at the same time?
Oh, mate, pro spec, we do it like this, No, you should always do one at a time. You should always do one at a time.
Yeah.
It's just good kind of safety first kind of protocol, I think. If there's absolutely nothing around and the road is very predictable, there's no crosswinds, there's nothing jumping out in front of you, you should be able to sit up and keep pedaling like this with a stable front end. If you can't, it's often a sign that there's something a bit off with your bike position. But yes, swapping one hand at a time. Make sure the other one is fully on before you change hand positions. Yeah.
Good.
So there are your 4 hand positions. Moving the hands around a lot is good for circulation. This sport is hard enough with the static contractile efforts required in your upper body and the constant chronic tension, pressure on your vascular pathways in your hands. This sport is hard enough for the circulation on your hands without just staying in one spot all the time. So moving your hand position around a lot, or fairly regularly at least, is good practice just for getting circulation back into your hands.
Good.
Yeah.